I came home that Tuesday night completely exhausted. I'd been working on a design project for 12 straight hours, barely stopping to eat. My daughter Lily was already asleep on the couch, her math homework scattered around her. I felt guilty seeing her like that. She was only 8 years old, and I'd been working so much lately. I kissed her forehead gently and picked up the mail from our apartment doorstep. Bills, advertisements, the usual stuff. Then I saw it, a thick white envelope from Mercy General Hospital with bright red letters saying, "Final notice." My heart sank a little. I thought maybe it was about Lily's flu visit from last month. The doctor had given her antibiotics, and I'd already paid part of that bill. I tore open the envelope and pulled out the papers inside. What I saw made my hands start shaking. The bill said I owed $80,447. For what? Emergency lumbar spinal fusion surgery. Patient name, Maya L. Chen. That's me. Date of service, March 15, 2024. I read it 3 times, not believing my eyes. I've never had back problems. I've never even been inside Mercy General Hospital as a patient. This had to be a mistake. A huge, terrible mistake. Then a small yellow sticky note fell out from between the papers. The words on it made my blood run cold. Your account has been submitted to collections. Failure to pay will result in legal action and wage garnishment. If you're watching this video, please like, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments where you're watching my folktale story from. I want to know how far it has traveled. I barely slept that night. I kept thinking about that bill. $80,000. That was more money than I made in 2 years. How could they bill me for a surgery I never had? It didn't make any sense. The next morning, I called the hospital billing department as soon as they opened. A recorded voice told me to hold. I waited for 40 minutes, listening to the same piano music over and over. Finally, someone picked up. Mercy General Billing, this is Derek speaking. How can I help you? Hi, my name is Maya Chen. I received a bill for a surgery I never had. This has to be an error. Derek sounded bored when he answered. Let me pull up your account. Can you give me your date of birth? I gave him my information and waited. I could hear him typing on his computer. Okay, Miss Chen, I see the charge here. Emergency spinal fusion surgery on March 15th. Everything looks correct on our end. No, it's not correct. My voice was getting louder. I was never in your hospital. I never had any surgery. I don't even have back problems. Derek put me on hold again. When he came back, his tone had changed completely. Ma'am, our records show you were admitted through the emergency room at 6:47 p.m. on March 15th with severe lower back pain. I grabbed my phone and checked my calendar. March 15th. That was the night of Lily's school musical. I was there from 6 until 9, 50 miles away from that hospital. Then Derek said something that made my stomach drop. Are you calling our medical staff liars, Miss Chen? Because that's a very serious accusation. After hanging up with Derek, I immediately called my insurance company. Maybe they could help me fix this nightmare. A woman named Donna answered and listened to my story. At first, she sounded understanding and sympathetic. Let me look at your file, Miss Chen. Just give me a moment. I heard typing on her end. Then the typing stopped, and there was a long silence. Miss Chen, I'm looking at the claim right now. We already paid $60,000 toward this procedure. The surgery was pre-authorized. Everything was verified by the surgeon. All the proper documentation is here. My mouth went dry. But I never authorized anything. I wasn't even there. Donna's sympathetic voice disappeared. Now she sounded cold and professional. Our fraud investigation unit already reviewed this claim thoroughly. Everything checked out perfectly. You're responsible for paying the remaining balance and your deductible. Can you please send me copies of everything? The authorization forms, the surgeon's notes, all of it. Yes, I can email those to you today. There was another pause, and then Donna said something quietly, almost like she was reading it for the first time herself. Miss Chen, the signature on these forms, it's notarized. And there's also a psychological evaluation here stating that you were alert, awake, and consenting to the surgery. I felt like the room was spinning. Someone had forged my signature. Someone had created a fake psychological evaluation. This wasn't just a billing error. This was fraud. The documents arrived in my email 2 hours later. I opened them with shaking hands. There were consent forms, preoperative instructions, post-surgery care plans, and prescription records for pain medication I'd never received. And there, at the bottom of the consent form, was my signature. Or something that looked close enough to my signature. The handwriting was almost right, but the loops were too tight. The slant was slightly off. Someone had practiced copying my signature, and they'd done a pretty good job. Next to the signature was a notary stamp. It looked completely official. The name on the stamp was Rebecca Huang, with a commission number underneath. I'd never heard of anyone named Rebecca Huang in my entire life. I kept reading through the papers. There were detailed postoperative care instructions telling me how to manage pain, when to remove bandages, what medications to take. There were prescription records for pills I'd never picked up. Every single detail was there, perfectly organized. Someone hadn't just stolen my name. They'd created an entire fake medical event. They'd built a complete story about a surgery that never happened. My phone rang. The screen showed unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. A robotic voice spoke. This is Allied Collections Agency. We are calling regarding account number MG 2024-3847 in the amount of $80,447.32. Please press 1 to discuss payment arrangements. I hung up and started crying. The next morning, I went to the police station. I had to report this. Someone was committing fraud using my identity, and I needed help. The officer at the front desk was a tired-looking woman with gray hair. Her name tag said Officer Patricia Morgan. I explained everything to her as clearly as I could. She took notes but didn't look very interested. Medical billing errors happen all the time, Miss Chen. Honestly, this sounds like a civil matter, not a criminal one. It's not an error, I insisted. Someone used my identity to fake an entire surgery. Look at this document. That's not even my real signature. Officer Morgan sighed and filed a report anyway. She handed me a case number written on a small piece of paper. I'm going to be honest with you, she said. You'll probably have better luck with a lawyer than with us. We don't have jurisdiction over hospital billing issues. I felt completely defeated. I thanked her and turned to leave. I was almost at the door when she called after me. Wait, you said this was at Mercy General Hospital? Yes. Why? Her face changed. The bored expression was gone, replaced by something serious. What date did they say this surgery happened? March 15th. Officer Morgan's eyes narrowed. You're the third person this month who's come in here with almost the same story. All from Mercy General. All claiming they were billed for surgeries they never had. That night, I couldn't sleep again. I kept thinking about what Officer Morgan had said. I wasn't the only one. Other people had been billed for fake surgeries too. All at the same hospital. I opened my laptop and searched online, Mercy General Hospital billing fraud. Pages and pages of results appeared. I clicked on a Reddit thread titled, Billed for Surgery I Didn't Have, Help. A user named TruthSeeker 2024 had written a long post. She described getting a bill for $95,000 for cardiac surgery she never received. Same hospital. Same perfect documentation. Same forged signatures. I scrolled through dozens of comments. Most people said it was probably just a billing error or insurance confusion. But 3 users described the exact same pattern I was experiencing. Fake surgeries. Perfect documentation. Targeting people who were busy, stressed, or didn't have resources to fight back. Then I saw a comment that made me stop scrolling. It was from 6 months ago, posted by someone called Whistleblower MD. The comment said, "I used to work at Mercy General. If you're reading this and you've been fraudulently billed, do not give up. They're counting on you giving up. There's a reason I got fired for asking questions. If you need help, contact me." At the bottom of the comment was an email address. My hands were shaking as I wrote it down. I sent an email to Whistleblower MD at 2 in the morning. I didn't expect a reply. But when I woke up the next day, there was a message in my inbox. "Meet me at Morrison Park, South Entrance, 3 p.m. tomorrow. Come alone. Don't tell anyone you're meeting me. Dear James Rivera." My friend Sarah, who works as a journalist, warned me this could be dangerous. "Maya, this could be a scam. You don't know who this person is." But I was desperate. I had 15 days before the collections agency could take legal action. I needed help from someone who understood what was happening. The next afternoon, I arrived at Morrison Park 15 minutes early. I sat on a bench near the south entrance, watching people walk their dogs and jog past. At exactly 3 o'clock, a man in his late 50s sat down beside me. He wore a baseball cap pulled low and dark sunglasses. He didn't look at me. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then he opened a newspaper and pretended to read it. His voice was quiet, barely above a whisper. "Don't react to what I'm about to tell you. And don't look at me directly." I kept my eyes forward, my heart pounding. "You're being watched," he said. "They've been tracking everyone who disputes these bills. Act normal. Just listen." The man kept his newspaper up, speaking in a low voice that only I could hear. He told me his name was Dr. James Rivera. He'd been a spine surgeon at Mercy General Hospital for 15 years. He was the department head with a perfect record. 6 months ago, I started noticing something strange, he said. The surgical logs showed procedures I never performed. Patient names I didn't recognize. When I asked the billing department about it, they told me it was just a clerical error. But it kept happening. Week after week, phantom surgeries appeared in the system. Dr. Rivera started investigating on his own. He found dozens of fake procedures across multiple departments. Different doctors, different patients, but the same pattern. I took my concerns to the hospital administration, he continued. I showed them the evidence. I thought they'd thank me for catching the fraud. He turned a page of his newspaper, still not looking at me. 2 weeks later, they fired me. They said I sexually harassed a nurse. A complete lie. The nurse they named didn't even exist. They destroyed my career to shut me up. My throat felt tight. Why are you telling me this? Because you're not a random victim, Maya. They specifically target single mothers, immigrants, people working multiple jobs. People too busy or too scared to fight back. But you're fighting. That makes you dangerous to them. The newspaper rustled as he folded it. And that means they'll come after you harder than you can imagine. Dr. Rivera told me what I needed to do. You need proof that you weren't at that hospital on March 15th. Not just your word. Undeniable, timestamped proof that you were somewhere else during the surgery. My mind raced. March 15th. Lily's school musical. I'd recorded the whole thing on my phone. I had photos, videos, everything. Photos can be backdated, Dr. Rivera said, reading my thoughts. They'll claim you edited the timestamps. You need something they absolutely can't argue with. I thought hard. What else did I have from that night? Then it hit me. I use a location tracking app, I said. For my freelance work. It tracks my mileage automatically for tax deductions. It's called MyLogger. For the first time, Dr. Rivera looked directly at me. Even through his sunglasses, I could see hope in his expression. Pull it up. Right now. My hands shook as I opened the app on my phone. I scrolled back to March 15th. And there it was, a complete GPS trail showing exactly where I'd been that entire day. From 5:47 p.m. to 9:23 p.m., the app showed me at Brookfield Elementary School. 50 miles away from Mercy General Hospital. Right at the exact time I was supposedly in surgery. I had proof. Real, undeniable, timestamp proof. Dr. Rivera stood up, folding his newspaper. Save that data immediately. Back it up everywhere. That's your weapon, Maya. Don't let them take it from you. I rushed home, feeling hopeful for the first time in days. I had proof. Real evidence that I couldn't have been at that hospital. I started downloading all my GPS data, making copies, saving everything to multiple drives. I was so focused on my computer that I didn't hear the doorbell at first. When it rang a second time, I jumped. I wasn't expecting anyone. Through the peephole, I saw a man in a dark suit holding a clipboard. I opened the door with the chain lock still on. Maya Chen. Yes. I'm here to serve you with legal documents from Mercy General Hospital. He slid a thick envelope under the door. I picked it up with shaking hands and tore it open. Inside was a lawsuit. They were suing me for the full amount, $80,447, plus legal fees and interest. The total was now $94,000. The court date was in 21 days. I looked up, but the man was already walking away. That's when I noticed something else. Across the street, a black sedan was parked with its engine running. The windows were tinted so dark I couldn't see inside. I looked at the clock. That car had been there for over 2 hours. I watched it for another 10 minutes. Then I looked away to close my curtains. When I looked back, the car was gone. No headlights, no engine sound. Just gone. The next day, I hired a lawyer. Well, the only lawyer I could afford, Felix Okafor. He'd just graduated from law school and was running a small legal aid clinic downtown. His office was tiny, with books stacked everywhere and a desk covered in case files. Felix was young, maybe 26, with bright eyes and endless enthusiasm. When I told him my story, he didn't look at me like I was crazy. He believed me. Okay, he said, pulling out a notebook. First thing we need to do is request all your medical records from Mercy General. Under HIPAA law, they have to give them to us within 30 days. What will that prove? If this surgery never happened, the records will have inconsistencies. Surgeons write specific notes. There are anesthesia logs, nursing charts, recovery room observations. It's really hard to fake everything perfectly. Felix typed up the formal request and sent it that afternoon. I felt like maybe, just maybe, we had a chance. 3 days later, a thick envelope arrived at Felix's office. He called me immediately, his voice strange. Maya, you need to come look at this. When I got there, he had all the medical records spread across his desk. His face was pale. These records are incredibly detailed, he said quietly. Surgical notes, anesthesia records, recovery room observations, post-op vital signs. Maya, whoever created this didn't just forge a signature. They forged an entire medical event. Everything looks perfect. Felix filed a formal dispute with Mercy General's Patient Advocacy Office. He attached everything we had, my GPS data from MyLogger, photos from Lily's school musical, and witness statements from other parents who saw me there that night. The hospital's response came back within 48 hours. That was surprisingly fast. The letter was from a lawyer named Mitchell Crane. His letter was cold and threatening. It said that Mercy General's medical records were completely accurate. Their medical staff's integrity was beyond question. My GPS data and photos could easily be faked using smartphone apps. They were proceeding with the lawsuit. But the worst part was at the end. They were adding defamation charges for publicly claiming their staff committed fraud. The new lawsuit amount would be even higher. Then came the final paragraph. The one that made my blood run cold. We note that Miss Chun is a single mother with a minor child. Perhaps she should focus on her family's well-being rather than pursuing frivolous legal battles she cannot win. The stress of prolonged litigation could have serious consequences for her daughter's stability. Felix looked up at me, his jaw tight. Maya, they are threatening Lily. They are saying if you keep fighting, they'll use your daughter against you somehow. I felt sick. They weren't just coming after my money anymore. They were threatening my child. I wanted to give up right there. But then I thought about all the other people they'd done this to. All the other mothers, all the other families they destroyed. Someone had to stop them. 2 days later, I was woken up at 7:30 in the morning by loud knocking on my door. When I opened it, a woman with a clipboard stood there looking official and serious. Good morning. I'm Amanda Price from Child Protective Services. We received a report that your daughter may be living in an unsafe environment. My heart stopped. What? That's insane. Who reported this? The report was anonymous, Amanda said, stepping inside without waiting for permission. It claims you're financially unstable, emotionally unstable, and leaving your child unsupervised for long periods. I watched in horror as Amanda walked through my apartment, taking notes. She checked the refrigerator, looked in Lily's bedroom, examined our living conditions. Then she asked to speak with Lily alone. Lily was scared and confused. I could see her little face looking at me, not understanding why this stranger was asking her questions about our life. After what felt like hours, Amanda finally finished. She stood at the door, putting her clipboard in her bag. Everything looks fine here, she said. Then she lowered her voice and leaned closer. Off the record. I've seen 3 cases exactly like this in the past 4 months. All mothers fighting Mercy General Hospital. All suddenly reported for child neglect by anonymous callers. And you know what's strange? All those reports were mysteriously closed once the mothers dropped their hospital disputes. She looked me straight in the eyes. Be careful, Miss Chan. Someone powerful doesn't want you asking questions. I sat in my car outside Lily's school, hands shaking, fighting back tears. They weren't just threatening to take my money anymore. They were threatening to take my daughter. My sweet, innocent 8-year-old daughter who had nothing to do with any of this. My phone rang. It was Felix. Maya, I have bad news. The hospital just filed a motion to freeze your bank account pending the lawsuit outcome. If the judge approves it, you won't be able to access your money. They can't do that. They can, and they are. Maya, these people have resources you don't. They have lawyers, money, power. I'm going to be honest with you, this is going to be an incredibly hard fight. For the first time, I seriously considered giving up. Maybe I could negotiate a payment plan. Drain my retirement account. Take out loans. Declare bankruptcy if I had to. Anything to protect Lily and make this nightmare end. Then my phone buzzed. A text message from an unknown number. Don't quit now. I found something important. Meet me tonight, same place, 8 p.m. JR. Dr. Rivera. Maybe he had new information that could help. I drove to Morrison Park that evening and sat on our usual bench. 8 o'clock came and went. No Dr. Rivera. I waited 30 minutes. Still nothing. I called the number he texted from. It went straight to a recorded message. The number you have reached is no longer in service. Dr. Rivera had disappeared. Panic set in. I drove to the address Dr. Rivera had mentioned once, a small apartment complex on the other side of town. I checked every mailbox, looking for his name. Nothing. A neighbor was getting her mail. I asked if she knew Dr. Rivera. Oh, the doctor in Unit 12C. Yeah, he moved out. Maybe a week ago. It was sudden. Moving trucks came in the middle of the night. My heart sank. Had they gotten to him? Had he run away? Was he even real, or had I imagined this whole thing? I walked back to my car, feeling completely defeated. That's when I saw it, a manila envelope tucked under my windshield wiper. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was a USB drive and a handwritten note. They are watching my apartment. Couldn't risk meeting you in person. Everything you need is on this drive. Find Rebecca Huang, she's the notary on your forms and 50 others just like yours. She's the key to everything. Stay safe. JR. I sat in my car and plugged the USB into my laptop. Files started appearing on the screen. Internal hospital emails. Billing spreadsheets. And then I saw it, a document titled Phantom Surgery Victims. It was a list of 47 names. All patients. All billed for surgeries they never had. Next to each name was the amount they were charged. When I added them all up, the total was over $4 million. And every single consent form had been notarized by the same person, Rebecca Huang. I spent the whole night researching Rebecca Huang. The state notary database showed she was licensed and legitimate. She had a professional website with photos of herself at work, smiling and holding official-looking documents. She had a LinkedIn profile, even an Instagram account with pictures of her cat. She looked completely normal. Like any other small business owner. I called her office number the next morning. It went to voicemail. I drove to the address listed on her website. It was a UPS store, just a mailbox, not an actual office. Rebecca Huang was a ghost. Felix helped me dig deeper. We found out that Rebecca became a notary exactly 3 years ago, right when this fake surgery started appearing in Massey General System. Her notary bond was valid and properly filed. But there was something strange. She'd never filed a tax return. No property records existed in her name. No utility bills, no credit cards, nothing. It was like Rebecca Huang didn't exist before 2021. Then Felix found something interesting. He pulled up her original notary license application from the state archives. Maya, look at this. Under current employer, what does it say? I leaned over to read the screen. My stomach dropped. The application listed her employer as Massey General Hospital Administrative Services. Rebecca Huang wasn't an independent notary. She was a hospital employee. She'd been working for them the whole time, planted there specifically to make this fraud look legitimate. Felix and I realized that if Rebecca Huang worked for the hospital, she might still be there somewhere. Maybe using a different name or a different job title. We needed to find her. I went to Massey General's administrative building during lunch hour when lots of employees were coming and going. I blended in, wearing business casual clothes and carrying a folder like I belonged there. Inside, there was a building directory on the wall. I scanned through all the names. No Rebecca Huang listed anywhere. But I noticed something. The billing department had a sign that said, "Notary services available." I walked up to the front desk and tried to act casual. "Hi, is Rebecca available today?" The receptionist looked confused. Rebecca who? Rebecca Huang. I was told she works in notary services. The receptionist shook her head. I don't know anyone by that name. I was about to leave when an older woman in a nearby cubicle overheard us. She stood up and walked over. Rebecca Huang doesn't work here anymore, she said quietly. My pulse quickened. Do you know where she went? The woman glanced around to make sure no one else was listening. Then she leaned closer and whispered. Between you and me. She didn't leave voluntarily. She was escorted out by security about 6 months ago. Same day they fired that surgeon for asking too many questions. The same day they fired Dr. Rivera. Rebecca Huang and Dr. Rivera had both been removed on the same day. That couldn't be a coincidence. I needed help from someone with more power than Felix and me. I called my friend Sarah Nguyen, an investigative journalist who works for the local NBC news station. She'd covered healthcare fraud cases before. When I told her my story, she got excited immediately. Maya, this isn't just a billing error. This is organized crime. If what you're saying is true, this is a massive story. Sarah used her media credentials to request public records, hospital board meeting minutes, financial disclosure statements, notary complaint logs. She also started reaching out to other victims on Dr. Rivera's list. I didn't hear from her for 3 days. Then, at midnight, my phone rang. Maya, you need to hear this. Sarah's voice was shaking with excitement. I found 5 victims willing to go on camera and tell their stories. But that's not the best part. What is it? One of the victims is a forensic accountant. She got suspicious about her own bill and started tracking where the insurance money actually went. Maya, all $4 million in fraudulent payments went to a shell company called Meridian Medical Solutions. What does that have to do with? I looked up who's on the board of directors for Meridian Medical Solutions. Maya, one of them is Richard Stoltzfus, the CFO of Massey General Hospital. He's stealing the money. This goes all the way to the top. My hands were shaking. We'd found the proof. We knew who was behind it all. Sarah came up with a plan. It was risky, maybe even dangerous, but it might be our only shot at exposing the truth. Here's what we'll do, she explained. You're going to call the hospital and offer to settle. Act like you're giving up. They'll want to meet with you to close the deal. While you're in that meeting, my camera crew and I will be outside waiting. If they say anything incriminating, we'll have it on record. Felix was skeptical. Sarah, if this goes wrong, they could use it against Maya. They could say she was trying to trick them. We won't have the cameras inside the meeting, Sarah said. But we'll be right outside the building. The moment Maya walks out, we'll approach them for comment. See how they react. I knew it was risky. But I was tired of being scared. I called Mitchell Crane, the hospital's lawyer, and told him I wanted to discuss a settlement. He agreed immediately. Too immediately. Like he'd been waiting for this call. Tomorrow at 2 p.m. My office at the hospital. That night, I couldn't sleep. Something felt wrong about how quickly he'd agreed. Then, at 1 in the morning, I got an anonymous text message. Don't go to that meeting. It's not about settling. They are going to make you sign an NDA and a confession saying you committed insurance fraud. If you sign, they own you forever. If you refuse, they'll destroy you. I stared at the message. Who had sent this? And were they telling the truth? I went to the meeting anyway. But I was prepared. Sarah's legal consultant had given me a tiny recording device to wear hidden under my shirt. If they tried to threaten me or make me sign a false confession, I'd have proof. Mitchell Crane's office was on the 3rd floor of the administrative building. When I walked in, he wasn't alone. Richard Stoltzfus, the CFO, was there. So was a woman I'd never seen before who introduced herself as a patient advocate. They were all smiles, offering me coffee, acting friendly and helpful. "Miss Chen, we understand this has been stressful for you," Mitchell said. "We want to resolve this quickly and fairly." He slid papers across his desk toward me. "We are willing to reduce your balance to $15,000. You can pay it over 3 years. All you need to do is sign this agreement acknowledging that the surgery occurred and that you were simply confused about the dates." I pretended to read the agreement carefully. My heart was pounding so hard I was sure they could hear it. Then I asked the question Sarah and I had planned. "Before I sign anything, I have a question. What happens if I find Rebecca Huang and ask her why she notarized my signature when I was never in this building?" The room went completely silent. Stotzfusser's friendly smile vanished. His face went hard and cold. "Who told you that name?" he demanded. I didn't answer. I stood up, thanked them politely for their time, and walked out. As soon as I exited the building, Sarah's news van pulled up. She and her camera crew jumped out and rushed toward the entrance. Mitchell Crane and Richard Stotzfuss were just stepping outside, looking furious. "Mr. Stotzfuss, can you comment on allegations that Mercy General Hospital has been billing patients for surgeries they never received?" Sarah called out, her microphone extended. Stotzfusser's face went red. "No comment. This is harassment. Can you explain why a shell company connected to you received $4 million in fraudulent insurance payments? Turn those cameras off right now." But the cameras kept rolling. Sarah had everything she needed. The story aired that night on the evening news. Local mother exposes multi-million-dollar hospital fraud scheme. Sarah interviewed me, 3 other victims, and showed copies of documents from Dr. Rivera's USB drive. The most powerful moment was when they showed my GPS data on screen, a map showing me 50 miles away from the hospital during my supposed surgery. The story went viral within hours. Thousands of people shared it online. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing with notifications. But at 11 p.m., Felix called. His voice was tight with panic. "Maya, they just filed an emergency restraining order against you. They are claiming you're harassing hospital staff. And they are suing you for $5 million in defamation." $5 million. They were trying to bury me completely. I wanted to cry, but I'd run out of tears days ago. All I could do was wait and see what happened next. The next morning, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. When I answered, a woman's voice said, "Miss Chen, this is FBI Special Agent Keisha Morris. I need to speak with you about your case against Mercy General Hospital." My heart stopped. The FBI. Agent Morris came to my apartment that afternoon. She was a serious woman in her 40s, wearing a dark suit and carrying a briefcase. She showed me her badge and sat down at my kitchen table. "I've been investigating healthcare fraud in this region for 2 years," she explained. "Your news story caught my attention because the pattern matches other cases I've been tracking. Organized fraud rings operating inside hospital systems, using real patient data to create ghost procedures." She opened her briefcase. "I need everything you have. Dr. Rivera's files, your GPS data, the victim list, all of it." I gave her the USB drive and all my documentation. She looked through it carefully, taking notes. Then she said something that made my blood run cold. "Miss Chen, you were very lucky. Most people just pay the bill and move on because they are scared. But I need to tell you something. 2 of the people on this victim list, they died. One was ruled a suicide. The other was a car accident. Both deaths happened within weeks of them threatening to file lawsuits against Mercy General." My voice came out as a whisper. "You think the hospital killed them? I think someone didn't want them talking. That's why you need to be very careful right now." 3 days later, at 6 in the morning, the FBI raided Mercy General Hospital. I watched it on the news with Lily beside me on the couch. Federal agents in blue jackets swarmed the administrative building, carrying boxes of evidence out to trucks. Richard Stoltz first was led out in handcuffs. So was Mitchell Crane, the billing department supervisor, the head of patient records, 3 doctors who had signed off on phantom surgeries. And then I saw her. The woman who'd been in Mitchell Crane's office during my meeting, the one they'd called a patient advocate. The news reporter said her real name, Rebecca Huang. She'd been hiding in plain sight the whole time, using a different job title. She was arrested along with 14 other employees. That evening, Agent Morris called me. We found something in the files that you need to know. Your case wasn't random, Maya. They targeted you specifically because you're a freelance designer with irregular income. They assumed you wouldn't have consistent location data or the resources to fight back. But I did have the data. Yes. And that's what broke the whole case open. But there's something else. We found Dr. Rivera. My heart jumped. Is he okay? He's alive. We've had him in protective custody for the past 2 weeks. Someone broke into his apartment and threatened him. We brought him in to keep him safe while we built the case. He wants to meet with you. He says you saved more lives than you know. Dr. Rivera and I met at a small cafe downtown. He looked tired but relieved. When he saw me, he actually smiled. Maya, I'm sorry I disappeared on you. They were escalating the threats. I had to go into hiding. Agent Morris told me you've been helping them. I gave them everything I had. All my research, all the evidence I'd collected over the months. But it was your GPS data that made the case unbeatable. That's what convinced the FBI to move forward with the raid. He pulled out a folder and slid it across the table. I need you to understand what you've accomplished. This fraud scheme started small 3 years ago, just a few fake procedures to inflate the hospital's revenue. But it grew into something massive. They were targeting the most vulnerable people. Immigrants who were afraid to challenge authority. Single mothers who were too busy working to audit every bill. Elderly patients with memory problems. I felt tears in my eyes. How many people did they do this to? Based on the FBI's investigation, we think there are at least 200 victims. Maybe more. But because of you, it's over. The FBI estimates you've prevented this from happening to 10,000 future victims. He opened the folder. Inside was a legal document. This is a federal lawsuit against HealthCorp United, the parent corporation that owns Mercy General. $400 million in damages. Every victim will get compensation. Including you, Maya. 6 months later, I stood in federal court as the judge read the final settlement. All 47 identified victims would have their fraudulent bills completely erased. We would all receive compensation for damages and emotional distress. Richard Stoltz first was sentenced to 15 years in prison. Mitchell Crane got 12 years. Rebecca Huang received 10 years. 14 other employees were convicted with sentences ranging from 3 to 8 years. Mercy General Hospital was placed under federal oversight. HealthCorp United paid the largest healthcare fraud settlement in our state's history. My personal settlement was enough to cover all my legal fees, my lost wages, and compensation for what they'd put Lily and me through. But the most important part was a new provision attached to the settlement. Any hospital that receives federal funding would now be required to provide patients with time-stamped, third-party verified records of all procedures. It was being called Maya's Law. I used part of my settlement money to create a victims advocacy fund to help other people facing medical billing fraud. Dr. Rivera was reinstated with full honors and now leads a national task force on medical ethics. My GPS data became a training module for fraud investigators across the country. Today, Lily and I went back to Morrison Park. We sat on the same bench where Dr. Rivera first warned me I was being washed. Lily looked up at me with her big, curious eyes. Mom, why did you keep fighting when everyone told you to give up? I smiled and put my arm around her. Because sometimes the truth is hidden in the smallest details, like where your phone says you were on a Tuesday night. And because giving up would have meant letting them do this to someone else's mom. I couldn't let that happen. She hugged me tight. You're brave, Mom. No, sweetie. I was just scared enough to do the right thing anyway. As we walked home hand in hand, I thought about everything that had happened. The fear, the threats, the moment I almost gave up. But I also thought about the 200 people who would never get a fraudulent bill. The thousands more who were protected because we'd exposed the truth. Sometimes ordinary people have to stand up to powerful institutions. Sometimes a single mother with a location tracking app can bring down a criminal empire. Sometimes the smallest piece of evidence, a GPS coordinate, a timestamp, a phone record, can change everything. Document your life. Trust your instincts. And never underestimate the power of proof. Because the truth, no matter how small, is always stronger than a lie.